mode.
All right. Good afternoon. I want to welcome you to this webinar on leveraging people systems in a lean transition, and also thank the folks at Lean Frontiers for the opportunity to speak to this group of folks. I want to tell you a little bit about my lean journey to start out with. My name is Kathi Hanley. You probably saw that on the web page. I was lucky enough to start my lean journey actually with Toyota Motor Manufacturing in Georgetown, Kentucky in 1987. I had started there in quality control, actually in quality operations in manufacturing. That gave me the opportunity to actually see the ins and outs of the Toyota production system from a front-hand perspective at the front of the line, and then also as I moved up in the organization to understand it from a management perspective as well. About halfway through my career there, I moved into human resources in the function of what we called HRD, in other words, human resources development. Really at a time when Toyota needed to expedite the learning curve of American management and basic Toyota management systems applications such as problem solving and process management, subordinate development, and also in strategic planning, or what they call Hoshinkanri. So I spent 13 years in total at Toyota, ending my career as a manager of human resources development. And you may be thinking, so what's a quality person doing in HRD? I think there's two answers to that. One is that my background was actually my degree when I started at Toyota was in social work, and I had worked in social work for a while, and although it's not immediately apparent, there's definitely a hard link between social work and HR systems. And then the other part of it is I had a great opportunity to grow in my knowledge of the Toyota management systems, and especially the position I held in quality control utilized a great deal of problem-solving skills. And so I was able to learn problem-solving and the methodologies for problem-solving from a great group of Japanese trainers. And so my experience in the Toyota problem-solving methodologies was probably a little ahead of the curve of some of my American peers. So that's how I ended up over in HR. Then I had the opportunity. Toyota believes in the development of their people, and AEG Toyota is famous for saying, first make people, then make cars. So I got the experience that I did not have in HR systems per se through the ability to attend a multitude of seminars and university training programs, et cetera, to get brought up to date to what is an organization development system about, and how do they operate in an organization, and what's their expected contribution. So I've had a great career and have spent the last 10 years or so in the consulting mode, helping other organizations to transform their world and transform their organization into lean organizations. So we have what we call a poll question for you. So I'm not sure exactly of the mechanics, but I see a little red sign that says poll is open, so great. And my poll question for you is, in the transformation that you're involved in or experiencing in your organization, or maybe even leading, has HR actually been brought into the transition yet, and it's a simple yes/no question. So if you would answer for me, that would be great.
Okay.
And we'll look at those results in a little bit.
So, Kathy,
go ahead, Dwayne. Yeah.
I've started the poll, and we've got 75% of those have voted already. So I'm going to wait just a couple more seconds here and see if we can get a few more.
Sounds great.
And okay, I think you're going to be surprised by the results here. So let me go ahead and close the poll.
Okay.
And I don't know, Kathy, if you see anything on your end.
I don't.
Okay, so the poll results came back as 49% said yes and 51% said no.
Awesome. Awesome. So that's a much higher yes response than I normally see. So thank you so much for sharing that response with us. So hopefully then what I'm about to cover will be really useful to you. And for those who have not involved HR yet, let's hope that you get a sense of what their role should be and begin that process of including HR in your lean transformation. So I'm going to switch to the next slide, and for some reason, there it goes. All right. So we often talk about what's the role of human resources in any company, but most especially in a lean company. So the answer to that really starts with that most basic relationship that has to be developed in any organization, which is the relationship between the manager and the employee. And the manager and the employee relationship must be. We doing okay, Dwayne?
There we go.
Okay. The manager and employee relationship must be based first and foremost on mutual trust in a lean organization. And that requires for the manager and any leader in a lean organization to really first acknowledge that their primary role in the organization is to teach and develop their people. And that can sometimes be a surprise in a more traditional organization that job actually falls to the manager or the leader of the employee. But the job of human resources then is to reinforce the mutual trust between the company and the employee. And how they do that is by looking at, first and foremost, the way the systems within HR are structured themselves, and how do they promote mutual trust between the company itself and the employee. And then also keeping an eye on and coaching and developing the manager group of the organization to be sure that the relationships that they are maintaining, that the coaching that they are doing is effective, that the manager or the leader is provided with the latest set of knowledge on what makes effective development of people in the organization, and really working to be sure that the organization is going to be capable in both the near and long term to meet and or exceed whatever the requirements of the strategic plan and the operational improvement plan might be in the organization. So it's a large amount of responsibility. It takes a great deal of focus. And I think, unfortunately, in these days and times, that function in HR might have been one of the functions that was eliminated back in the downturn of 2008 and 2009 and the related years. We saw a lot of elimination of HRD and OD population in the workforce of a lot of the companies, especially those that are in the small to mid bracket in the Fortune 500. We saw a lot of elimination of those positions, unfortunately. So the upside is, I think, that people are trying to put those functions back in place. There's recognition now that that is an important role, and that is a function that only an organization that is somewhat separate from the operations group itself can actually maintain. So I wanted to talk for a minute about the inherent conflict of a lean transformation. So when we look at the way adults learn, we usually learn something about a concept. That should be on the left-hand side of the slide under preferred. So we like to learn, then we like to practice, have a practice that is supervised, and then we want to do it on our own. And that's sort of our preferred adult learning cycle that we know about in adult learning theory. But what often happens in a lean transformation is organizations decide that they're going to implement lean, and in that implementation they ask leadership to own that implementation and to speak about it and to speak favorably about the transformation and to go out there and make it happen. But unfortunately, they don't necessarily always learn about what it is that they're being expected to do. And then they do learn something about it, and then they get their practice time in, and then it's possible for them to own it. But what happens, unfortunately, is they get asked to own the transformation. And this is an area where HR or HRD or OD in an organization can be particularly effective, because they can learn up ahead of the time when we're asking leadership to take ownership for the transformation, and they can be coaching and developing the leadership to do a better job of owning the transformation. And they can be the change agents that make it possible for the change to actually transpire without having to go through what is the normal preferred adult learning process. So an important role that HR can play. But if you're questioning yourself, if you're out there and leading transformations out there, and you really, one of the things that I hear most often when I'm working with the people who are in the operations excellence group or the lean transformation team is that we can't get ownership of the transformation to happen with our leadership group. You really have to go back and ask yourself, well, did we give them the opportunity to learn about lean, and did we give them the opportunity to practice what they were learning in a safe environment before we asked them to actually own the transformation itself? So I think that's the inherent conflict that we see going on. I see going on with a lot of my clients these days in terms of their effectiveness in making this transformation happen. So I want to transition now to a little bit about the lean employee life cycle. So the lean employee life cycle is really not that much different than any other employee life cycle out there, any other model that you may be familiar with if you're an HR practitioner, or a model that you might be familiar with if you're in operations of a company. The first and most important concept is that we want to create a continuous improvement culture. And in doing that, of course, obviously the first thing is that we have to attract people. And how we attract people, although, obviously through social networking today, there are many ways to attract people into your organization, but more foremost about that in that attraction is what we know is the provision to the new employee of an opportunity to actually contribute to the organization in a positive way, so that we know that the employee group that is coming into the workforce currently out of colleges and universities or even out of high schools really want to be a part of the organization. They want to be able to contribute to the organization. They may or may not, however, plan to spend their entire career within that organization. When young people have been polled recently, they generally think that they will be in their first job with their first company for maybe 2 to 3 years before they move on. So in a lean company, it's really important that we can attract people who are open to the idea that their lifetime with the organization may, in fact, exceed a 2 to 3 year tenure, and so that we can work with them to help them to be able to make truly important contributions through continuous improvement in the organization. The next phase of the cycle is the engagement of the organization. So we engage people through training programs that we provide through human resources or through operations. We engage people by letting them be part of problem-solving initiatives in the organization. We engage them by providing opportunities for them to make contributions in all sorts of ways. And then we have to inspire them. And we inspire them by tying them to the true north of an organization. So during my many years at Toyota, before we had the more formalized Toyota Way that has been published, we all memorized a basic true north that said that we were responsible for contributing to society by building the highest quality vehicles at the lowest possible cost and the shortest amount of lead time, while respecting the humanity of those who do the work. And we were told during our orientation program that it was really our job to continually reflect on that statement and figure out how could we make improvements to the way the process that we as an individual were responsible for, or the group of processes that our team was responsible for, or the even larger numbers of processes that resided within the group that we were a part of. So first, inspiration is tied to the true north or the mission statement of the organization, and then as we go on, the inspiration comes from either the coaching and development that comes from your leader, or your ability to make yourself a candidate for promotion in the long term or rotation to another area of the organization, and the ability to continually contribute to the organization on a higher level from your initial level at employment. And then we get into reinforcement. So what are the programs and systems that reinforce and maintain your membership and your continued commitment to the organization. Over time, that might be things like compensation programs. It could be things like succession planning programs. All these things are intended to help reinforce your commitment to the organization. So let's look at some of the people-facing systems in that context. So in terms of attraction, we really have employee selection and the way that we go about selecting those employees. Many people have heard about Toyota's selection methodologies, which depending on the situation of the plant or the location can be quite elaborate and definitely highly effective in screening for new employees. But sometimes we can look at just the basic, how do we interview people, and identify methodologies for interviewing and selecting people that are more closely aligned with the core competencies of Lean, such as problem solving and orientation to continuous improvement, also influencing in the organization, orientation to teamwork, orientation to seeing a job through to its end. Those types of characteristics, or we call them competencies in the HR world, really honing our selection criteria at the interview stage to be sure that we're getting people who have a natural inclination to be team players. They're interested in solving problems in their process. They're interested in seeing improvement happen, and they're interested in contributing that improvement to the place where they work. Another important thing that some companies don't really think about, especially if they're on the smaller side of the size of an organization, is what is your reputation in the community where you do business. And it's very surprising, especially in these days and times, what types of reputations get built up in communities very quickly. And so paying attention to what is your outreach into your community with an eye on how will that help build the viewpoint in the community that you're a great place to work, or that the jobs in your organization are ones to be desired. And then the other thing that we look at is how are we onboarding people. It's very common in today's practice, unfortunately, that we bring people into the organization and they may spend a half a day with someone in HR, and in that half a day they're filling out all the necessary paperwork, and they're selecting their benefit programs, et cetera, and learning when payday is and how to fill out the timesheet on the computer and all of those kinds of things. But they're not really always hearing from the organization about what it is they aspire to be. So going back to that, contribute to society by building the highest quality vehicle, etc., the aspirations of Toyota, that is really important for a new employee to understand, and to understand that from your company's perspective. So what are the key aspects of the True North that we really are looking for them to be a part of? We want them to engage in, and we want them to see that how the work that they do actually contributes to those efforts over time. Moving on then into engagement, obviously we talked a little bit about employee training. So what are the training methodologies that you use besides sink or swim new employee efforts? Unfortunately, what is the additional employee training that comes online as I continue to grow as a more proficient employee in your organization or a more committed employee in your organization? And then what does it take for me to learn over time so that I can be qualified to move up in the organization? And then I put CI programs on this. It's continuous improvement programs. In my old world, we used to call those suggestions. But I think the term suggestion systems now comes with a whole lot of baggage behind it and a whole lot of memory of things that were turned in and never got implemented, et cetera, and that's not the idea. When I say a continuous improvement program here, I really am talking about the ideas for improvement that come through those daily reflection meetings that go on in a lean management system that are part of Leader Standard Work, where we ask people to think about what did we do today, what did we do yesterday, did we do it as it was supposed to be done? If not, how can we improve it? If we did, then how can we assure that we continue performance at that level? And if we didn't accomplish our goals yesterday, what stood in our way? What do we need to do differently? And from that, really drilling into standard work in the organization to see if there are changes that need to be made, either in the adherence or the sufficiency of standard work. And those ideas come forward from the people on the front line and all the layers above them to really continuously improve the organization with the intent that we improve either the quality, the efficiency, or the safety of the way work is done for the long-term improvement of the processes in the organization. And then we engage people also through assignments that we give them. So sometimes it's not possible. Organizations are small. There's not a large opportunity for promotion, but generally there are always improvements that need to be made across the organization in a cross-functional mode. And so are there assignments that can be given to people to further engage the organization becomes one of the roles of human resources to manage. And then development programs in general, in whether it's in problem-solving capability, it's in the tools of the 7 tools of QC, whatever it is that needs to be taken on in order to meet the challenges of the future or to develop an individual to perform more effectively in their role. After we engage them, we need to continue to inspire them, and I've talked about the alignment to true north, so truly understanding what is my part in helping the organization accomplish whatever they seek to do, and then reinforcing through policies, through peer reviews, through the compensation system, and through the organization structure to really reinforce over time what is the kind of organization we want to be, what's the culture in the organization, and what do we hope to see happen over time. So that's the end of my presentation. I hope that it was helpful to you. Dwayne, I'm going to ask you to step in here, and I don't know if they have a methodology for giving you feedback or emailing questions to us for the long run.
Yeah, sure do, Kathy. Thank you. Thank you very much, first of all, for taking your time to be here and share your insights. Certainly, I think I mentioned this earlier, there's certainly very few people in this space that have the depth and level of experience that you have. So certainly appreciate those insights. So
Okay.
as we close out here, you will receive an evaluation form when you close, when I close, go to webinar. So if you could take one moment and just fill out that evaluation form as you see that pop up, that would be most helpful. And if you have any questions for Kathi, Kathi, can we make your contact information available in an
Oh,
email perhaps?
of course. Of course. It's Kathi.Hanley at themerlegroup.com.
Okay, great. So in a follow-up email, I'll forward that out as well. So just a couple of quick reminders of some additional things that are coming up. Not only are we doing a number of these webinars over the course of the next few days, as a matter of fact, we have one coming up on the Lean CEO tomorrow with Jacob Stoller. But we also have a couple of events coming up. The first, which will take place in the Jacksonville, Florida area, something we're calling Lean Leadership Week. The Summit on Lean Leadership, which is an inaugural event, will take place October 5th and 6th, where we will focus on the leading people in the Lean organization. And that will be held at One Ocean Resort. Then we're going to move about 20 minutes down the street and continue our Leadership Week with the Lean Accounting Summit and the Lean Management Summit, which are both being held simultaneously. You can learn more about this week and find links to each of these events by visiting the Summit on Lean Leadership /Leadership Week. We're also going to be in Malmo, Sweden with the TWI Summit, the first annual TWI Summit, Europe specifically. So please join us if you have facilities perhaps in Europe. Pass this along to them and let them know about the fact that we'll be in their area. We're going to be covering the subjects of TWI, Kata, Lean, and really how all of those things can be used in an integrated manner. And finally, before we wrap up here, you are watching a Lightwise webinar. A new Lightwise is coming in 2016, so I would ask you to visit lightwise.me, so lightwise.me, and you will find a series of webinars already recorded available for you to view, and there's an opportunity for you to subscribe to additional webinars that will be coming out in the near future. So thank you so much, Kathi. Again, thank you for your time, thank you for your insights, and thank you to everyone who participated in today's webinar. Thanks and have a great day.
Thank you.